I backed my husband's career shift, but he secretly invested our savings in a friend's startup. Now he says I never had faith in him. I'm Sarah, 29F, and I've been married to Vernon, 31M, for 5 years. We met in college where I was studying graphic design and Vernon was majoring in finance. We clicked right away, bonding over our shared love for indie music and weekend hiking trips. After we both graduated, I got an entry-level job at a small design firm, and Vernon landed a position at a mid-sized financial company. Life seemed to be unfolding perfectly. 2 years later, we got married, full of excitement about the future. We dreamed of buying a house, starting a family, and even talked about retiring early so we could travel the world. Then, 3 years ago, everything started to shift. I lost my job when the design firm I worked for went bankrupt. It was a tough blow. I struggled for months to find another full-time position in my field. During that time, I started a side hustle designing custom invitations and cards to help with expenses. What began as a way to make ends meet quickly turned into a passion project. I loved the creative freedom it gave me, and before long, I had built up a decent clientele. Eventually, I found a job at a marketing firm, but I kept up my side hustle, which gave us extra income and helped us save toward a future house. Vernon, on the other hand, was good at his job and received several promotions, but he seemed increasingly unhappy. He came home stressed and exhausted, often working late into the night. The stress took its toll on our relationship. We started arguing more small things at first, but the tension between us was obvious. A year ago, Vernon dropped a bombshell. He wanted to quit his job and become a teacher specifically to teach kids how to code. I was completely taken aback. Vernon had never mentioned an interest in teaching before, and suddenly he wanted to change his entire career. He explained that he had been volunteering at a local youth center on weekends, helping with their computer club. He discovered that he loved working with kids and wanted to make it his career. While I admired his desire to do something meaningful, I was worried about the financial side of things. Vernon's job provided most of our income, not to mention our health insurance. My job at the marketing firm was decent, but it wasn't enough to comfortably support both of us, especially in an expensive city. I suggested that he could pursue his teaching dreams part-time while keeping his finance job, but Vernon was determined to go all in. After weeks of discussions, we agreed on a compromise. Vernon would continue working at his finance job while he studied for his teaching certification. It was a stressful year. Vernon was working full-time, studying in the evenings, and volunteering at the youth center on weekends. Meanwhile, I took on more freelance work to help cover the costs of his courses. We barely saw each other, and when we did, we were too exhausted to enjoy it. Finally, Vernon got his teaching certification. He quit his finance job right away and started looking for teaching positions. It took a few months, but eventually he landed a job at an after-school program teaching coding to middle schoolers. The pay was less than half of what he had made in finance, but Vernon was happier than he had been in years. At first, I was relieved to see him so passionate and energized by his work. Yes, money was tight, but it felt like a worthwhile trade-off for his happiness. We made sacrifices to adjust to our new financial situation. We moved to a smaller apartment, cut back on non-essential expenses, and I ramped up my side hustle to bring in more income. It was difficult, but I told myself it was temporary. Vernon would eventually work his way up in his new career, and we would get back on track. I just needed to be patient. But as the months went by, the financial strain began to wear on me. We had to dip into our savings more often than I was comfortable with, and our dream of buying a house seemed to be slipping further and further away. We started arguing more frequently, this time about money. Vernon suggested that I look for a higher-paying job, but I was passionate about my work at the marketing firm and didn't want to leave. Plus, I was already working long hours between my job and my side hustle, which was helping to keep us afloat. Then came the tipping point. Last week, Vernon came to me with a new idea. He wanted to start his own summer coding camp for kids. He was incredibly excited about it, talking nonstop about how he could create his own curriculum, reach more kids, and finally have the freedom to run things his way. But there was a catch: it would require a significant upfront investment. Vernon needed money for equipment, venue rental, and marketing. That's where the real conflict began. Vernon wanted me to give up my side hustle and use that time to help him start the camp. He argued that if the camp was successful, it would bring in more money than my freelance work ever could. But I wasn't so sure. My side hustle wasn't just about the money, it was something I had built from scratch, and I was proud of it. I had regular clients who depended on me, and I wasn't ready to walk away from that. Plus, I didn't have confidence that the camp would be successful right away, especially given the financial risks involved. Vernon didn't take my refusal well. He accused me of not believing in him and not supporting his dreams. He reminded me that he had supported me when I started my side hustle, even though it meant less time together, and now he expected me to do the same for him. I tried to explain that the situations were different. When I started my side business, we weren't in financial trouble, and my freelance work didn't require a large upfront investment. But Vernon didn't want to hear it. He said I was being selfish and that I was prioritizing my hobby over his career. Since then, things have been tense between us. Vernon has been giving me the cold shoulder, making passive-aggressive comments about how I never have faith in him. I feel torn. I want to support Vernon's passion for teaching, but I also feel like I'm the one keeping us financially afloat right now, and it seems reckless to risk that for an unproven idea. Some of our friends have weighed in. Some say I should give Vernon's idea a chance and support his dreams, while others agree with me that it's too risky, given our financial situation. I don't know what to do. Am I being selfish for not wanting to give up my side hustle? Should I take the risk for the sake of my husband's dreams? Or am I right to prioritize our financial stability? Update 1. It's been a month since the initial argument, and things have changed, though not necessarily for the better. Vernon and I sat down to talk after our blow-up. I wanted to explain my concerns about our finances in more detail, hoping we could find a middle ground. I showed him our budget and pointed out how we had been dipping into our savings month after month. I explained that my side hustle wasn't just about the money, it was something I was passionate about and something I had built up over time. Vernon listened, but I could tell he was still frustrated. He said he felt like I was choosing my career over his dreams. He said he was passionate about teaching and wanted to create something of his own. He had supported me when I started my side hustle, and now he expected the same from me. I offered a compromise. I would reduce my side hustle hours by half and use that time to help him plan his coding camp. Vernon wasn't thrilled, but he agreed. Over the next few weeks, we started planning together. I helped him design a website, create a business plan, and start marketing the camp. It was a lot of work on top of my regular job, but I wanted to show Vernon that I was willing to support him. But as we got deeper into the planning, it became clear that Vernon hadn't thought things through. He didn't have a clear curriculum beyond a few basic coding exercises, and he hadn't factored in important details like insurance or liability coverage. His budget projections seemed overly optimistic, relying on full enrollment with no room for error. When I pointed these things out, Vernon got defensive. He accused me of trying to sabotage his project. Then, last week, Vernon made a move that pushed me over the edge. He put down a non-refundable deposit on a venue for the camp using money from our joint savings account without telling me. This was money we had earmarked for emergencies, and Vernon spent it without discussing it with me first. When I confronted him, Vernon blew up, accusing me of always trying to control everything. He said he was tired of feeling like he had to ask for permission to pursue his dreams. We had a huge fight. Vernon ended up storming out and staying with a friend for a few days. We're at a complete standstill now. Vernon still wants to move forward with the camp, but I don't feel comfortable with the financial risk. I suggested he start smaller, maybe offer one-on-one tutoring or small group classes to build up experience and a client base. Vernon thinks I'm holding him back. Update 2. It's been 2 months since my last update, and things have taken an unexpected and heartbreaking turn. After our fight, Vernon came home one day buzzing with excitement about a new opportunity. His friend Mark, who also worked in finance, was starting an educational technology company, and he wanted Vernon to come on board as a curriculum developer. The catch: it was a startup, and the pay would be even lower than Vernon's after-school teaching job. In exchange, Mark offered equity in the company, promising big returns down the line. I was immediately concerned. We were already struggling financially, and taking on another low-paying job seemed like a huge risk. I asked Vernon about the company's business plan and financials, but he didn't have many details. He said he trusted Mark and believed in the company's potential. I voiced my concerns, explaining that we couldn't afford to take another financial risk right now. I suggested that maybe Vernon could consult for the company part-time while keeping his teaching job, but Vernon wasn't interested in my suggestion. He accused me of never believing in him and said he was tired of me holding him back. Then came the final blow. Vernon admitted that he had already accepted the job offer and invested a significant chunk of our savings into the startup without telling me. I was devastated. This wasn't just about money anymore, this was about trust. I felt completely betrayed. Vernon didn't see it that way. He said he was tired of asking for my permission to pursue his dreams. He accused me of using money to control him and said he couldn't be with someone who didn't believe in him. Then he packed a bag and left. It's been 2 weeks and Vernon is staying with a friend. He's thrown himself into the new job, leaving me to handle all the financial burdens on my own. I've had to take on extra freelance work just to keep up with our bills. I feel overwhelmed, hurt, and confused. I don't know what the future holds for us. Part of me wants to fight for our marriage, but another part wonders if we're just too different now. I feel like I've been supportive of Vernon's dreams, but he sees me as the one holding him back. For now, I'm trying to focus on keeping things stable and figuring out where I go from here.